Hi, you're watching my channel, Cloud Busted. So I finally started rebuilding my txt-2. It's a Tamiya Agrios. So I've had this thing for a while. I did a few upgrades on it, but I was tired of looking at it busted up sitting on the shelf, so I decided to rebuild it. So first thing I had to do was fix the broken link mounts, which were down here. The factory plastic ones were snapped off, and I replaced them with these. These aluminum ones were for a txt-1, which is very similar, but it uses a cantilever suspension as opposed to the 2 shocks per corner. They're pretty much the same. They bolted right in. I had to make a few modifications. So this is the new piece. This is the aluminum one. This is the old plastic one. They're pretty much the same except for right here. This is where the shock on this truck snaps into. These were for the txt-1, and the txt-1 had a cantilever suspension, so it just comes with these like spacers and long bolts. The problem is if you use that, your shocks are going to bind because they're meant to like snap on these little ball studs. So all I did was I cut this piece right here like that, and then I cut this right down the middle, and I was able to screw it in here. The only thing I had to do was drill these holes out so a screw would fit in because they come threaded. Just make sure you drill the right side, because this is the part that the link mounts to, which is what this will screw into. This is the part up here that the shocks go into. I should be drilling this in the vise. I'm just doing this so you can get a better view. And make sure you always wear safety glasses. So there were 3 screws that went through here that held this to the front bumper guard. So that's what we're going to use to mount this piece after we cut it. Because if you take a look right here, these holes are countersunk. That fits and sits nice and flush. So now I'm going to cut this piece right here. So now this piece is cut off, and I just got to cut this down the middle like that. So I'll put this in here very carefully. Just don't over tighten it because you could break it. And it's got the holes right there, so it'll screw right onto the new piece. So now that this piece is cut and this is drilled out, I can put those screws right through here and attach this, and just make sure you put this on the right side so that your countersunk holes are facing outward. Now there's a 3rd hole right there. I don't know what that was originally used for, but there's also a hole right there. So what I'm going to do is just open this up with the drill bit a little bit. Careful that you don't go into the aluminum. I should be doing this in the vise, but I'm just doing it for the video purposes. That's all it takes. And make sure you wear safety glasses. And then I go to my box of clodbuster screws, and I take a screw from the clodbuster because it's far superior to any other screw. Now, because this piece is threaded, it tightens down really nice, and you really don't need a nut on the back side, but I put one on anyway just for good measure. And again, I take that from a clodbuster screw set. I got a bunch of clodbuster screws. And the reason I use such a long screw right there is because once this is mounted in, you have extra screws sticking out. You could use it for something like a sway bar upgrade down the road, I don't know. So now I gotta just take the link mount off the stock one. This piece is threaded right here too. So I tighten that down. But I also put a nut on the back side too, so that way I don't have to use Loctite, and it should stay on there. So now this is ready to go back on. Just put that on there. Putting the new countersunk screws, they look way better. I just start one loose right there because these screws go right through the axle housing. And then these hold that, and the rest is just pretty straightforward. But now this thing's getting close to running again. All I got left to do is fix the front axle. Something's broken there. I put the stock motors back in it, stock transmission back in it. And then I got to get a radio, speed controller, and that's about it. And I'm going to definitely upgrade the motors. And it's funny because when I first started my channel, I think my second video was on this one. It's kind of funny for me to watch it now because I was just using the tablet back then. I didn't really know what to say, but so now I'm rebuilding this thing. I'll show you a little bit about it. It's a solid axle monster truck, 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering. It shares a few parts similar with the Cloudbuster, like these outer hubs, outer axle shafts, and it uses the same 12mm hex. So wheel upgrades and everything is the same as a Cloudbuster, except if you use stock Cloudbuster wheels, the offset's a little different and they slightly rub on the shocks. And with the pieces right here from the txt-1, they might rub a little more because if you take a look, the shocks are angled inward slightly, like they tip in at the top, which is good. You want that. You want the shocks to lean in a little bit. It helps keep it more stable. But factory Tamiya Cloudbuster wheels, when it turns lock to lock, tire just touches the shock, so it'll probably do it even a little more now. But I got some really nice wheels coming for this thing, so for now I'm just going to put the stock tires back on it just so I can run it, and I gotta wait for these new wheels and tires to come in. So it's a tube chassis, and it's the two top rails are aluminum. That's a high quality plastic. This side plate right here is aluminum, so this chassis is like real rigid. It doesn't flex at all. And it's got the 4-link suspension right there, upper and lower, and it's perfect geometry. If you compare the geometry on this to like an Axial SMT10, this is way better. This is way more realistic. The 4-wheel steering is nice. It puts the servo right on the axle, front and back. So now I just got to pop the wheels on, and I think I can have this thing sitting on its wheels again. It's been a long time. Like I said, this thing was sitting on my shelf for a couple of years, busted up, and it's been bothering me. I really want to get this thing going for a while. It even uses wheel adapters like the Cloudbuster, but the TXT wheel has bigger studs in there so they don't snap off like the Cloudbuster. But one trick you can do if you want to run a Cloudbuster tire, you could drill holes right there, and the studs in the back of the Cloud wheel fits right in. But like I said, factory Cloud wheels hit the shocks. So I'm going to get this thing on its wheels, put the body on. It's been a long time.